Well, on today's Loving Trains video, we have Nickel Plate Road 765 as it returns to the Cuyahoga Valley. As it was in the Cuyahoga Valley for 2 weekends right in a row, the last weekend in April and the first weekend in May. So yeah, that's all the intro. Well, we went out on the very first day of their excursions on Nickel Plate Road 765 on April 25th, 2025, where we went to a place called Jate. So yeah, here comes the train. Well, here we go. Nickel Plate Road 765 in the valley is coming our way. That calls. And in typical Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railroad fashion, we do not have a Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railroad at the end of this train. On to EX 1443. Well, this Friday, April 25th, was a big day for learning. We found out after we were already south of Indigo Lake that the train does not go south of Indigo Lake when it was doing its Demon Valley excursions. It stops in Indigo Lake to go head back north. We were south of Indigo Lake for 20 minutes, so then we tried to catch back up with it, and we kind of succeeded. After we paralleled Nickel Plate Road 765, we barely got ahead of it to Blacksville. we saw it in Rexville, we tried to get to the Canal Exploration Center. Well, we did, but we had a bit of trouble because of this. The road was closed due to high water or flooding. As we did eventually make it to the Canal Exploration Center to watch its deadhead run back to the Fitzwater maintenance yard. Well, we are here by the Canal Exploration Center on April 27th, 2025, waiting for Nickel Plate Road 765. Reason we didn't come out on the 26th, I was sick and they canceled 2 of the excursions. Yay! I'm still kind of sick, so that's what's going on. Well, we only saw NKP 765 twice on April 27th, both times at the Canal Exploration Center for the 1:15 run and the deadhead run after that. Here we go. As we just saw, CVSR 6777 was the locomotive that would be leading the northbound train back up to Rockside. As that is a pretty cool sight to see because that was only its 3rd time running in 2025. As its first run of the whole year was on April 26, 2025 when it ran on that 5:30 Steam in the Valley excursion, as it was out of service due to some mechanical issues in October of 2024. So yeah, that's pretty cool to see. That's also why we did not see it on April 25th, 2025, as we saw RTEX 1443. This is the last video I have of CVSR 6777 in 2024. It was leading a northbound train on October 26th. Well, let's get back to the Steam in the Valley excursions. When we go back to the Canal Exploration Center for the deadhead run back to the Fitzwater maintenance yard. Well, after we saw on April 27th, 2025, we went back out the next weekend to see it on all 3 of the days, May 2nd, May 3rd, and May 4th. When we went out on May 2nd, we saw it at a spot a little bit north of Boston Mills, but it was running about 20 to 30 minutes behind schedule because it blew an air hose in Bexville. So yeah, here it comes. Well, I hope you enjoyed that clip of Nickel Plate Road 765 running over my GoPro. You'll see a similar clip to that twice more in this video. But after we saw it north of Boston Mills, we went to a spot along Riverview Road, which was in a picnic area south of Peninsula, Ohio, where we saw the train there. Well, after we saw it along Riverview Road, we tried to get back ahead of it and failed. But we did go to a spot a little bit north of Indigo Lake to watch its return trip back up to the Rockside Station with CVSR 6777 leading. Well, after we saw it start to head back north at that spot just north of Indigo Lake, we saw along Riverview Road as shown here. Well, after we saw it along Riverview Road, we went up to Boston Mills, where we saw it heading northbound there. Well, that was all we saw of Nickel Plate Road 765 on May 2nd, 2025. As we did try to beat it to Bexville, but we failed. Well, the next day, May 3rd, 2025, we went out to a spot south of Peninsula and north of Deep Rock Quarry by the Cuyahoga River. So, yeah, here comes the southbound Nickel Plate Road 765. After we saw it by the Cuyahoga River, we were going to go try to see it at a spot south of Deep Loch Quarry, but we failed at that absolutely miserably, and I barely saw it for the northbound heading back up towards Rockside. After we saw it heading northbound at Deep Loch Quarry, we beat it to Bexville while we saw it go by there. Well, after we saw it head north up to Rockside, we stayed in Bexville for the next 2 hours. The reason we stayed is that we were waiting for the 5:30 p.m. southbound out of Rockside. Because when it got to Bexville, it would be doing its runbys so passengers could get pictures of the train. So yeah, that's coming up next. The reason the train has stopped is so it could pick up its passengers and head south. But it also gave us rail fans some really good opportunities to get some great pictures of Nickel Plate Road 765. That's all we saw of Nickel Plate Road 765 on May 3rd, 2025. Wow, already it's the last day of Steam in the Valley in the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. Now, we are in Peninsula, Ohio on May 4th, 2025. Here comes the 765. Well, I usually keep the video running much longer than I did this time, and I missed a shave and a haircut horn show with my camera facing the engine. I still captured audio, but I have a friend on the other side who sent me their video, so thank you to them. Well, after we saw NKP 765 leading southbound through Peninsula, we just made our way a little bit south of Peninsula to Deep Rock Quarry, where we saw 6777 leading the northbound. After we saw it heading northbound through Deep Rock Quarry, we went up to the Canal Exploration Center, where we saw the last and final run, the Run 15 southbound out of Rockside. As we saw it there, and then we'd see it elsewhere as well. So yeah, here we go. Well, after we saw it head southbound by the Canal Exploration Center, we very easily beat it to Everett because it had to do with runbys in Brecksville. And yeah, that's the spot we went to next. After we saw NKP 765 head south through Everett, we went up to a spot just south of Boston Mills where we saw the northbound CVSR 6777 leading. After we saw it just south of Boston Mills, we decided to go and beat it up to Bexville, but first we see it here. Yep. Well, here it is in Bexville. This would be the last time we would see CVSR 6777 leading for the Steam in the Valley excursions. After we saw it head northbound through Bexville, we went up to the Canal Exploration Center to see the last and final southbound, the deadhead, back to the Fitzwater Maintenance Yard. So yeah, here we go. After we head south through Canal Exploration Center, we went down to the Fitzwater Maintenance Yard where we were able to get some pictures of CVSR 6777 and some of the other rolling stock on the Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railroad. Well, it's already the end to this Loving Trains video. I hope you enjoyed all of those different shots that I got of Nickel Plate Road 765 in the Cuyahoga Valley National Park across the last weekend in April and the first weekend in May. Thank you to the Fort Wayne Railroad Historical Society for bringing out Nickel Plate Road 765 all the way to Ohio to participate in Steam in the Valley 2025. So, yeah. That's all for this Loving Trains video. Thanks for watching.